All Indiana Politics
is your premier source for Indiana politics.
Focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
And thank you for joining us this week. Our guest right now is attorney Mark Hurt. Mark, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for the invitation.
100%. You're joining a crowded field here, Mark. Before we get started on the politics of it all, let's go into your background a little bit. Introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers.
Yeah. Interestingly, my mom rode the school bus with James Dean. I'm from that Fairmount area.
Wow.
And only candidate that was born and raised in the district, but brings some unique experiences. I used to work for Senator Dan Coates, helped Congressman Fred Grandy. Fred was gopher on the Love Boat. So I was Gopher's gopher prior to helping Senator Coates. But did a lot of things, drafting amendments, bills, professional committee, managing floor debate. Clarence Thomas's wife, I remember in the family medical leave debate. So I'm the only candidate that has federal experience, Washington, D.C. experience. And when I married my wife, Nancy, who worked at INB as a stock analyst, she was transferred to Detroit, and I moved to Detroit and helped Governor John Engler as his healthcare policy advisor. When I was in D.C., I helped to develop the health savings accounts back in the early 90s. But I combined that. I went to Taylor University, close to where I live, then Baylor University, and had a focus on foreign policy. So I'm very interested in that. And then uniquely, last 25 years, just a lot of sweat equity, running a small business, law offices in Kokomo and Noblesville for 25 years.
And now you want to do this.
That's right. And during that time, part-time deputy prosecuting attorney. So even a small brick in the wall of justice.
Okay, so you
there for a time.
You have the experience,
yes,
but you're getting into a campaign that has a number of other candidates and a number of other people, including the current Congresswoman, Victoria Spartz, who we know has said that she will be stepping away, but she's also kind of hinted to maybe not. So how do you feel about that? And what do you think these next couple of months are going to be like?
Yeah, it was surprising that Victoria was vacating the seat.
Yeah.
Fred Grandy told me it's like a marathon with a steep climb at the end. And I think that's a good analogy. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. And at this phase, you're doing a lot of fundraising. You're calling people, getting the funds so you can get your message out. I feel like we've done a very effective job on digital marketing. Kyle Babcock's doing that, and we're really targeting our message to the 6 counties. This is 45% Hamilton County, 55% Tipton, Howard, Delaware, Madison, and Grant. So you got about 1 million people, 6 counties, but the district's very complex. You know, in Marion and Kokomo, it might be a unionized auto workforce, 6,000 in Kokomo. In Hamilton, it might be more of a white-collar, college-educated, service-oriented industry. You go to other parts, you have an ag sector, a lot of farming. So I think, I remember growing up, it was Mud Socks, and there were 100 people. Yeah. Now it's Fishers. Fishers and Carmel past South Bend, and they're the 4th and 5th largest cities in Indiana.
Yeah, it's grown tremendously.
Yeah, so I think you need to understand all the unique cultures, the people. And it even varies within Hamilton County. Westfield, Noblesville, much different than Carmel, Fishers, Sheridan, Cicero.
So why do you think you're the right guy for the job?
Well, I mentioned that experience. I think I bring the experience and the understanding of the district that would really do well to represent the district. I also think you need somebody that would start on the ground running. And I think I could do that with my past experience.
You mentioned that you were surprised that Victoria would be vacating the seat. Why?
Well, this is the 4th year. She's been a fighter for the district, and I think a lot of people really like her. Children go to Park Tudor, husband in farming, and they have the mobile homes there in Hamilton County. So I thought, she may go to 12 years. And my understanding is she believes in term limits like I do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, have you heard that she has hinted that she might do a U-turn here?
Yeah, I know there was the Indianapolis Star note where some colleagues were encouraging her to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
But I've not seen anything credible. I had a client from Kansas City bring that up when we were doing a estate planning signing for the mother. But we looked into the Twitter feed, and that wasn't deemed to be reliable.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with that.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to your opponents,
Yes.
Are you friendly with them, and how has that been?
I try to honor that 11th Amendment that Reagan spoke about. So I try to be civil with all candidates. Obviously, I'm going to compare and contrast and show in a competition setting why I think I'm the best candidate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I get along with all of them. Christine Altman, the commissioner there in Carmel, told me once time it's not a resume contest.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the best candidate doesn't win. So I think running campaigns in a modern day, you have to be very wise on messaging, how you get that message out, how you reach people that are really going to vote.
Yeah, and in a primary is a lot different than a general, right? So
it is usually more conservative. We've got a presidential year.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if it'll be Trump and Haley or just Trump?
Right.
But that brings out a lot more voters. The Republican Senate contest, not real contested from my viewpoint, but that presidential race could bring voters out May 7.
How do you differentiate yourself from the other candidates for the primary?
Yeah, I reference one. I'm the only person born and raised here. I don't think a lot of other folks were around Mud Sox when it was 100 people there in Fishers.
Yeah.
Secondly, the experience in D.C., none of the others have that, except Max Engling helped Speaker McCarthy for a couple years there on Capitol Hill. I don't think any of them have run a small business for 25 years and done a second job prosecuting part-time.
Mm-hmm.
The prosecuting really, and I see it in my guardianship practice on estate planning, I'm getting a lot of mental health cases, and there's a real need. I'd say a third of the people in jail have a mental health problem. And sometimes it'll be a dual diagnosis. Maybe they're self-medicating with marijuana. It's all types of problems. And I'm getting a lot of clients, ladies, college educated in their 20s to 30s, have a chemical change, and they need medication. And then for a short term, they need some assistance, sometimes hospitalization, to work through the psychosis or the changes in the chemistry.
Yeah.
So I've been telling people with the mental health, equal opportunity employer, it doesn't look at income, age, but that's a big need. I really, in the healthcare arena, want to do more to keep people out of jail, lower cost, but then get more community-based care and do that in a way where we still have a private sector health market. Getting concerned about some of the movements towards socialism. Under Obama, there had been a big push to move more power to hospitals.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? How do you make those changes?
Yeah, it's a little piece at a time. The government programs, Medicare, Medicaid, and VA, you're looking at over 50% of the market. One of the big things I tried to do when we put together a health plan when Senator Coates ran against Joe Hogshead is we were trying to keep things local, community-based health centers. Doctors there can treat asthma, preventative care, save money, and the local people, maybe they're migrant, maybe they're low income, they get to see a doctor. Secondly, you got small businesses, a large number of the uninsured, they work full-time or part-time, but they're at small businesses that can't afford to offer health insurance. So a key question in the equation is, how do you help those people? They're working, and Mike Pence had the health savings account in Medicaid, but you've got to figure out something where they have skin in the game. We remember Mike Braun using that term last election, but not only skin in the game and individual responsibility, someone helping them, especially someone not as educated, might need help on asthma, diabetes, a lot of these things that people work through on a daily basis. A couple other ideas I had on healthcare. Why not attorneys, hardware store owners, pharmacies, build on your business commonality, cross state lines, have bigger purchasing pools. That'll help you get more discounted rates, be on a more level playing field. Yeah. Indiana, we pride ourselves in some other things where we had keen initiatives. But when I was there, Hatch and Kennedy passed the Orphan Drug Act. And, that's getting pharmaceutical and medical device products products out to smaller population groups, but they have an incentive to do that so that they can recoup their investment. And then we expand that and use it worldwide. So, I'm a supporter of the medical device, pharmaceutical industry. It's strong here in Indiana, Warsaw being the capital.
So healthcare, mental health, two big issues for you. What else is big for Mark Hurt?
Yeah, immigration reform. We look at the polling, inflation and economies, number one. Very opposed to the qualitative easing and the printing of money. I think it's caught up with us. And I really want to see systemic reform and deficit reduction. I think you have to preserve and protect Medicare and Social Security. That was a promise made to those paying in right now, people living on Medicare and Social Security. But we need systemic reform on the appropriation bills. So you have a process, I think the new speaker will be good at this, firm deadlines on committee hearings, transparency, amendments, and then move it to the floor with transparency, amendments, and zero-based budgeting. I see Nestle and Coca-Cola doing it. Instead of saying we spent X last year and we start with X plus, why don't we come in and say, you need to prove why you need more money? And I think there's some agencies where we need to cut some spending, like, say, Department of Education. I think it didn't exist until President Carter in the late 70s.
Right.
I think there's a need for it in Title I and II, special needs kids, lower income states, say Mississippi, where you're giving some assistance, but a lot of the ideology and some of these other programs, that's not a federal role. Money needs to be eliminated. Keep the power and the money at the local level. Why not have school choice like we have in Indiana, where you can choose which district you go to, apply that nationally? But the second issue people are talking about is immigration reform. So
it's a hot topic right now, Mark.
We've had no real reform since President Reagan in the 80s. And a couple things I'd like to point out on that. One, people will throw up their arms and they'll say, it's too complex, we can't solve the problem. Well, I don't think you solve it in an omnibus bill. Why not go one issue at a time? Border security. We know we've got to stop the cartel. They're bringing in fentanyl. They're bringing in a lot of illegal immigrants and conducting human trafficking. Over 75,000, primarily children, killed by fentanyl. I think that was 2022. That was a double the number killed in 2019. That's manufactured typically in China and brought in through cartels. And for a child, a young teen that might use drugs for the first time, that moves into a death sentence. So I think you heighten border security. That means surveillance where there are a lot of rivers that meander. There are certain parts of the wall you increase. You up the pay of the ICE agents. And you move a lot of the Homeland Security folks that are doing more babysitting, nanny services, you get them on the border, and we stop the migration of people coming in illegally. Two, when people come in, why not go for asylum or immigration passport in Ecuador, Honduras, the country they're from, rather than migrating to Mexico, crossing over the river, and then asking the question, can I stay? So I think we modernize, have more judges, we modernize the visa system, and we have these issues dealt with in embassies throughout Latin America.
Easier said than done, though, right? All of this.
Well, there are groups that don't want that to happen. I've got friends. I have a friend from Taylor that owns a ranch down by Tucson. He's talked about the gangs coming over and creating a lot of problems. I have a friend who taught at Butler. They're down by Phoenix. They want workers from Mexico. They want them to come in each week. There's a shortage of workers, and they want them to be able to go back home on the weekends.
Right.
So a work visa is a part of that. I've said if a person lives here 10 years, they've paid their child support, they've paid their taxes, they've worked hard, there should be a pathway then for them to be a U.S. citizen that will benefit the United States. Some of the issues on other immigration reform, birthright citizenship is a small piece of the puzzle. I'm against someone flying in and you're automatically a child of the United States if you're born on U.S. soil. Now, for those that might not be here legally, it's a more complex constitutional issue, but I think you eliminate this birthright citizenship. We're only one of 16 countries that allows for that. And when we talk about the budget deficit, the healthcare cost in Texas, over $1 billion, New Mexico, Arizona, California, health costs are disproportionately incredible.
Right.
Especially when people come over to get the prenatal, postnatal care here. So that affects the budget. We have to deal with that. It's reality. And even our mayors, New York, from where you're from, other places that have been receiving migrants on these buses, they want reform.
Right.
They see the need. And it's a national security issue. They were telling me over 1,000 a day were coming in. We didn't know where they were from. Communist Chinese Party people? Are they terrorists?
Right.
ISIS? Hamas? That you have to have a border, and you have to be able to decide who comes in legally and who stays out.
Aside from immigration, what else do you think, or what issue, I should say, that we're facing today is one of the biggest ones? Yeah,
I think we'll have some Gen X and younger folks listening to this. Artificial intelligence is huge. Vladimir Putin said that the consequences, the abilities are colossal. Whoever comes in and takes the lead on artificial intelligence will be the leader in the world. And Elon Musk has also pointed out all the ethical problems that we're facing. It's not just when the car stops and there's a child crossing the road and when the computer decides when you can go and when you can't, but just a lot of huge ethical things about invasion of our privacy by government. It's interesting. In China, on TikTok, it's exclusively used for teaching math and science.
TikTok is?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they don't allow TikTok to come in like we have in the United States. Pornography, all this soft stuff that, in my eyes, ruins kids' minds.
Sure.
I was studying the Israeli-Hamas conflict. Kids, 18, 35, 4-1, thinking that Hamas was in the right. Guess where they said they were getting their news?
TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok. China didn't recognize diplomatic relations with Israel. And, one of the larger Islamic population groups in the world. But they're influencing our children through TikTok. So
would you want to ban TikTok?
Good question. I think you need strong parental controls. There's been a new law passed in Utah. Children under 16 don't get on TikTok, as I understand. And if you get on TikTok after 16, it's with parental control. So I'd want to strengthen those. My son and daughter taught me they're very good at getting around controls.
Yes.
And they're a lot smarter than I am. So we take that for what it is. But one thing I'm recommending, we had that Manhattan Project when we had atomic energy, AE, and I see AI is becoming more important than the AE. So why not have something like a Notre Dame project, Purdue project, or IU project, where we get ethicists, the people in the private sector, help us come together to know how to be a leader in this, but use it in a way that protects our individual rights, and it's good for everybody. And I don't think government does well when they try to take the lead.
Right.
I think we pull in those people from the private sector. But that's huge, the artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to women's health care rights,
yes.
Where do you stand on that?
That's a big issue. And people will note what passed in Ohio as, they feel some states are turning. I believe in protecting from the heartbeat until the heart stops. So this culture of life, I believe that we're created in the image of God. And if we want to maintain that design, you protect people at the end when they're dying, palliative care, hospice. But then at the front end, when that heart's beating and a child is in the womb, you protect the child's right. And that means good prenatal care. I'm a real big supporter of pregnancy resource centers. And that means diapers, parental training, helping with milk. But I've been getting some questions. Well, doesn't that stop at birth? Well, someone came back on that digital marketing question and said, no, that goes to age 3. But there are some out there that don't have the skill sets to raise a child after birth, and they need help. And there are some that are poor. So I feel it's somewhat hypocritical if I'm going to stand here and say I want life from heartbeat to when the heart stops, if I'm not there helping, providing resources and counseling. So I think ultrasounds are helping ladies make the decision, but that's part of my view, my mindset where I'm at. I think there's intrinsic value in life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you stand with how divisive things are these days, Mark? Because politics, it's become a dirty game, and it's not only politics though. It's kind of funnel down to just regular society.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do we fix that?
People are becoming more isolated. We were talking, up in Detroit, I felt people are a little more isolated, a little more private than, say, here in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that in bigger cities, I think New York,
Yeah.
Indianapolis. Social media then drives on that, and it creates images in minds that might not be reality, but it creates division. So I'm one that wants to work with people on the other side. You only solve problems long-term and big issues if you work together. So I think you have to be willing to do that and step up to the plate. I remember when I was managing floor debate on family medical leave, the people on Charlie Stenholm, Ralph Hall, a lot of conservatives, the boll weevils in Texas, they were more conservative than the Republicans in New England.
Right.
So sometimes a party affiliation doesn't really capture what people believe. I think that integrity means you treat people with respect, and that's people of all persuasions. But at the same time, you stand on your convictions, and that takes courage. And I think it also takes a strong backbone. I think Victoria Sparks has done a pretty good job at that. She'll speak her mind. She'll say where she's at on an issue. I suspect she's willing to work with people on all sides of the equation. My family member, Mark Souder, I thought he was a good model. Senator Coates, who I worked for, he really tried to do that.
He did.
Fred Grandy, on the House side, he did that as well. So that's the way I think as a society we have to work together. It's not a zero-sum game where you win-lose, because you're all going to have to live together after you offer a solution.
Absolutely. So you're open to working across the aisle?
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah. Conservatives, moderates, liberals, you have to work together.
Yeah.
And in a debate process, it's a marketplace of ideas. And if you understand the issues and you can bring people, hopefully, to your side, you want to persuade them, change their hearts and minds. And when we were talking about Latin America, I was just reading, we did a missions trip to Ecuador, and the gunmen, the gangs took over a radio station, broke out of jail, the cartel really growing there. And I think the only way you change that is the hearts and minds of people. When I was there, it was the Chinese that were building the bridges and the roads. Why aren't we there? Mm-hmm. We've got to have more engagement, or I think there's a natural movement to socialism, communism, and I don't want that.
Mark, we're almost out of time. Is there anything else you want our viewers and our listeners to know about you? We could probably keep going on and on. I know you have that there.
I brought the bumper sticker. We've got
up a little bit higher.
Okay, there you go. Okay. We've got the Mitch Daniels, Dan Coates, Dan Quell, Mark Souder green, which breeds the transparency and integrity.
Yeah.
But markhurt.org is the website. I think we've got a great website. Stacy McClure helped create that. Kyle Babcock helps manage it. And it's interactive. We'd love people to go to markhurt.org. Obviously, absentee ballots get mailed out March 23rd. Early voting starts mid-April. Election day, where we'll probably have a little over 50% of the voters in the primary, that's May 7th. It will be here before you know it.
Yes, it will.
So I would want people to vote for Mark Hurt. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that on the broadcast. And I'm happy to talk. One-on-one, tea, coffee. If you're going to be in the people's house, that means you're down with the people and you're talking to the people. I find the best ideas come from people. And from what I'm hearing, that's the one strength President Trump has. A lot of his ideas are coming from people that work with him. They work for him. And, I want to carry that mantra on if I can win and be elected to office.
Mark Hurt, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking some time.
Thanks for the invite. Thanks for your time.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.